I'm your host, Laura Rutledge, and I cannot wait for the show to start because spending Tuesday mornings with you is a highlight of my week. And if you're listening or watching on one of my pages, be sure to give StreamYard permission so I can see your name and I can see your comments. And let me know where you're tuning in from so I can give you a shout out on the air. I know we have a global audience, and I want to acknowledge you for taking the time to listen to me. For those of you in my time zone, and for those of you who are way out of it, I also want to welcome your questions and your comments. Now, I got to run so I can get ready. See you soon. Good morning. It is Tuesday morning, and we're going to have a good show today. And I may even have some questions for Jerry today. We'll do it the second half of the show. So you can go do your thing. About connections and relationships and professional versus personal. It's good, y'all. But today, because we got some really important stuff happening, I want to go ahead and have a little conversation about our voting and all that kind of stuff, right? Because that matters. And I got some announcements and stuff for y'all too. So, because what happens to one of us happens to all of us. There are a few countries around the world that in August will be doing elections. So Guatemala has a presidential runoff. So if you've been watching that, that's been a challenge. There's been a lot of violence and things going on in Guatemala around their elections, but they have a presidential runoff election that is happening this month. I believe it's on the 8th. But that's happening. It's either the 6th or the 8th. Ecuador, they have a presidential and parliamentary election. Zimbabwe has a general election, and Gabon has a general election. So what happens to one of us happens to all of us. So those things that are happening globally, we want to make sure we're paying attention to those too. Then, talking about us here at home, vote. Get registered to vote. Because see, when you don't vote in local elections, you have what's happening in Florida around saying that, slavery was good for Black people. Local elections matter. School board elections matter. Now, Tennessee. That special election is happening on 8/3. That is this Thursday. So, the folks that were booted out but then put back in, there's a special election, all that. Please, Tennessee, I need you to make sure you're registered, make sure you're on the rolls, make sure everything's good. Go and vote. Tennessee, that's on 8/3. That's this Thursday. And then on 8/8, so that's next week, 8/8, Alabama, Colorado, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Mississippi, North Dakota, Ohio, and Oklahoma. Y'all all have special elections or runoff elections, recall elections. All y'all, as they say in Texas, all y'all have some voting to do. So double check hopefully you already checked your registration, because this is right before. So unless you're in one of the states that you can register the day of an election, you might be out of luck this time. So please go get registered. Ohio. So Ohio got reproductive rights on the ballot. Good morning, Jenny. Good. Thank you, Jenny. Early voting is going on right now in Ohio. I was just about to talk about y'all. So the reproductive rights issue is on the ballot for November. But here's what you're voting on right now in Ohio. They are trying to change what it takes to get something passed for an amendment. Instead of the simple majority, now they're trying to force it to be 60%. So a person who is now running for Senate in Ohio came out and said this was 100% about abortion. Now he's kind of backtracking because he's trying to run, so he doesn't want to, get people to not vote for him. So he's backtracking, but see, we already got it on record, what he said. You need to vote no to protect the simple majority rule. You need to vote no to protect the simple majority rule. Otherwise, it's going to take 60% to be able to get something done. Okay. So, and that it has been simple majority for, I think, 100 years in Ohio. So they're trying to change it now because they see that at least 60% of folks really want these things to happen. Right. And so now they're trying to force things because they know they're losing. Even in those states where they've got governors who are putting in these crazy laws, the majority of the people don't want them, but they're still pushing them through. So by pushing measures like this, they are actually undermining the will of the people. So go listen to go read all of the polls, not just some of the polls. Go read all of the polls. The polls will tell you what the American people want. And the folks in power who are in the minority are trying to change the way voting happens, voting rights. They're gerrymandering. See what Alabama's got to go do, right? Fix those redistricting maps. They're gerrymandering. They're finding ways to undermine the power of the vote. They're finding ways to restrict your access to the vote, and they're finding ways to suppress the vote. So while I have my opinion on what we should be doing, right now, the thing I want you guys to focus on is doing everything you can to ensure that everyone's vote counts and has their voice count. And this whole redistricting just to keep certain people in power, no, we need to say no to that. Because if you really believe that your position is true, then you need to convince people that it's true. That's what's fair and square. And what's happening is people are trying to cheat to win. So no. And I'm going to continue to use my platform to talk about that. So make sure you're registered. Ohio, you got early voting right now. Get out and vote on this issue, right? It's issue 1. Vote no to issue 1 to ensure that you keep the simple majority in order to get things passed. Okay. Simple majority. So just go read it, and don't take my word for it. Go read it. Read it carefully, because this is another one of those that's written where no doesn't necessarily, where yes doesn't necessarily mean what you think yes means. Make sure you read it very, very carefully. Okay. And get out and vote, Ohio. Go vote. The formal election day is on the 8th, but there's early voting going on right now. Okay. So y'all know how I feel about this. Y'all know how I feel about voting. And you all should feel that way too, right? You should know how important it is. And these folks, 18 to 30-year-olds, are like not having this madness. They're not having it. Thank you, goodness. They are not having it. So we need all the rest of us who are of a certain age to not have it either, and to make sure that things are happening the right way. Okay. So let's make sure we're doing the right thing by getting out and voting. It's really important, y'all. It is really, really important. Okay. So today, we're going to be talking about relationships, professional and personal relationships. And this, y'all, this is such an important topic. So, and the reason it's important is because there's so much rhetoric around, relationships, and, the friendships you build at work, and, the deeper things that happen at work, and, you got your work friends, and you got your real friends, and you got all the stuff, right? Now, let me put this caveat by saying, you got to be you, and you got to know how you build relationships. You got to do all that kind of stuff that you need to do. And there is a connection that can and does happen around relationships, even in professional settings. So this past weekend, I got together with 3 of my work girlfriends who have become life girlfriends. We met in the last organization I worked for, and we became really good friends. So the first one, we met when I got there. We were both in human resources. When I took the first VP role, that's when I met her. She was running HR operations. She is now running a piece of the business in Germany. And we met on this big HR team, and just connected immediately, right? For a number of reasons. One, because we were there and we were battling just the madness, but also because, if you look around, there just weren't many people that looked like us. Now, at this point in time, there were 4 of us on this team, 4 Black women on this team, which was highly unusual. 4 Black senior level women, which was extremely unusual. And so we got to be really, really great friends. And it continued even as she moved out of HR, and we went through the separation, all that kind of stuff. The other 2, one came to be my head of diversity, equity, and inclusion. She is now a VP at a global construction firm, is a senior VP of diversity, equity, and inclusion at a construction firm, a global construction firm. And the other one came to work for me. We had worked on a project together when she was at a different company. And then when I had an opening, she's like, yeah, I'd do that. Cause see, that job that you have is like my ideal job. And I'm like, sure. And we just connect. Right. And then when I left, she was my replacement. I had hired her knowing that she was the right person at the right time. I just knew it. Right. She's incredible. And had been in the HR space for a very long time, had been in the industry. I mean, just all the things. So that's how the four of us connected. And over time, not only because of personalities and shared experiences in this organization, but because of a true desire to connect and a need to have folks that were truly in your corner, who you didn't have to like explain the whole history to and justify why you were feeling the way you're, none of that stuff. There was just this immediate kind of connection between the four of us. And so over time, we've all gone to do our own things. I'm like running my own business. One of them is, again, a head of a business unit at this company globally. So she's a global head of a business unit. The other two have gone off and are at Skanska. And then my other friend that was working for me and became my replacement is now the head of the Americas region for a big chemical company for HR. Got a huge team. I'm actually going to see her today. And we've all gone on to continue our lives and careers and all the things. And yet we were having our kind of check-in, realized that one of us was about to go through some stuff. And we're like, okay, well, let's just pick a date and we're going to all converge. And we did. We converged in Pittsburgh last weekend. And it was kind of weird for me because I had not been back to Pittsburgh since December of 2018. I had not been back. Good morning, Marissa. I had not been back since December 2018. So it was just weird. It was really weird feeling. Recognizing the things, going through the airport, all the things. It was just weird. And then we sat down. And it was like no time had passed, although it had. And what it made me start thinking about was, we have all of these personal or professional friendships. And one of the ones I consider family and in my village is actually listening this morning, who is at Xerox, a really great company as well. And I got a chance to hang out with her a couple months ago. What I realized was, and I think it's important for us to think about when we talk about relationships and careers and development. We talk a lot about networking and we talk a lot about making sure you're known and all these kind of things. And we don't really talk about the depth of friendship and connection that can move from professional to personal, and how important that is. So, number one, especially if you are in an HR space, if you are in potentially a finance space, but really an HR space, a legal space, or a very, very senior executive, it is, as they say, lonely at the top. And if you're in an HR space or a legal space, there's so much that you can't talk about, right? There's so much that there's so much information that you're privy to that you just have to hold tight. You can't talk about it out loud with folks. It's just it can't be done because you can take down companies. You have compliance issues depending on what's going on, like with mergers and acquisitions. There's some things you just can't talk about. And that's why you also have to be careful about who you have on your team, because if you can't handle sensitive information, you can't be in legal or HR, and probably can't be in finance either, right? And so there's this need to have people that you can talk to about the stuff that's going on personally, career-wise, talk through some things that are not necessarily connected, or maybe, right? Really have that confidential conversation in an organization about what's going on and why it's going on and how it's impacting you and how you should respond to it and all the things. You need that village, that professional village that you can rely on, that you can really connect to survive. because corporate America is no joke, y'all. It's not. Once you get past that very entry level, it's a whole different plane. And the further you get up in the organization, the less it is about what you know and your technical expertise than it is about your political savvy and your ability to navigate situations. That's why I call myself the chief navigation officer, right? It's about navigation once you get to a certain point and up. So, you got to find a way to develop those relationships internally that are your true confidential connections, uplifters, safe spaces, the folks that'll hold the mirror up in front of you and say, ooh, that was not good, right? You need to go fix that. You need all of those things in people in a professional setting. But here's the beauty in that. If you will allow the connections to be real, you got to be discerning, right? Because you can't connect that way with everybody. But if you can allow the connections to be real, here's the beauty of that. Those shared experiences in a professional setting can be the foundation for true, lifelong, heartfelt, personal connections. These women that I hung out with this weekend, and it was short. It was a short visit. Like, we had Saturday and we didn't do anything special, but it was all special, right? We went to the Phipps Conservatory and just looked at the Billy Porter thing. It was phenomenal, and just chatted. We had dinner and we just chatted. We had to figure out how to fight United and Delta, but we just chatted, right? And they were there with us when we were losing our minds behind this cancellation that United said was a technical difficulty, but we know because it was only 20 people on the plane, they just didn't want to run it that early because, see, nobody's stupid. But we'll deal with that on a different day, right? We were there doing Oakmont Bakery. So if those of you who are in Pittsburgh and haven't been to Oakmont, you need to go. It's an experience. I had never been. I just need you to know the minute you open the door, if you don't have type 1 or type 2, you will just by smelling the air. Because it's truly a bakery that is half a block long and starts with bread, ends with cookies, right? And everything in between. And so we did that. And then we had dinner, right? And then we just sat out on this terrace, had little bites of the desserts and some coffee, and just talked and laughed and relaxed. And it was a space where the masks were off. The masks were off. We talk about how we are in corporate America, right? And sometimes you just have to have that mask on. And it's not that you're not being who you are. It is that you are figuring out and deciding intentionally how you're going to present, how you're going to show up, right? Not code switching. Code switching says you truly can't be who you are. You are changing who you are for the environment. That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about that learned behavior, learned professional behavior of being appropriate for the situation you're in, or understanding enough about it that you can modify your words, your tone, your behavior to ensure your message gets across. That's what I'm talking about, right? And then some of it is putting your mask on, because, see, there are some things that you really know are inappropriate and that you need to address, and there's a way you really want to address them, but you can't. So you show up authentically you, but they don't get 100% you. Yes, Oakmont, honey, is Marissa. Oakmont, look. So when you find those people, it is this connection and this strength that comes, yes, from shared experiences, both professional and personal, but also from a deep connection that is seated in a true desire and concern for and love for and admiration and appreciation for the other person, right? It is a true friendship and relationship, and it is not self-serving. It is not the ladder climbing. It is not the ego boosting. Because, again, folks that are real, that are in your relationship, are going to be the ones that can slam your ego better than anybody else. They're the ones that are going to call you on the carpet when you messed up, right? So this is not about ego pumping up, but it is about a combination of celebration and uplift and love and support and a true desire to see the success of the other person and to remind the other person how fabulous they are, despite what the world is telling them, right? It's about laughing. It's about crying. It's about being able to be who you are all the time, all the time, to be able to be vulnerable, right? And so I think sometimes, and I would challenge you, when you think about your professional and personal relationships, I want us to reframe those boundaries we set. Now, in that reframing, let me put a little caveat there. If you are a woman who looks like me, or in any community that is a person of color, or a woman and person of color, right? There's only a certain amount of vulnerability that you can allow depending on your environment. You got to be really savvy about the environment in which you're operating, right? So I don't want anybody to put themselves at risk. That's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is being really discerning, listening actively, paying attention to the environment in which you're operating, and seeking out those folks that are true allies to you, not just professionally, but also personally. Those folks who truly have your back. Those folks who are going to tell you, don't leave any money on the table. I know you're leaving. I don't want you to go. I really don't want you to go. But you're not leaving any money on the table because, see, that other person didn't. So we're going to make sure that however you leave, you get every dime that's coming to you. That's who you want in your corner. You want the person that you can call and say, okay, look, here's what I really want to say, and I just need to get this out so that I can then go have the conversation that's still clear, but is not as candid as my spirit is telling me I want it to be right now, right? Those real relationships that turn into a support system that is invaluable, that is priceless, right? I think back to just that 36 hours, not even 48 hours, right? I think back to that time over the weekend, and I needed it. I think I posted that. I needed it more, and I'll post some more pictures. I needed it more than I even realized, to just sit and think and laugh and talk, and to have somebody look at you and say, no, you're not crazy. Wait, what? Because there were a couple of times when one of us told the rest of the team, the rest of the group, about something that was going on, and we all had that same face. Like, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. That's not what we're doing today. So, and here's how we're going to address that. And let us know if you need to put us on speed dial. We got the bail money ready, right? So it's that kind of stuff. The people who are like, look, we got you, ride or die. Let me know how I need to show up. Are we showing up in suits? Are we showing up in tennis shoes, right? And jeans? How are we showing up? Because we got you, right? It's that true professional connection that sees the vision of where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do and the impact that you can and are making, right? And really has a connection to your overall goals and desires, and is doing everything in their power to understand and help you get there, right? And is willing and able to also not only pull you aside to give you a safe space to cry, a safe space to scream and yell, but also a place that says, yeah, you know what? You're right. You're right. And this is unacceptable. So here's how we're going to strategize about this, because I need to get in this too. But before I do that, I want to make sure you're cool with that, right? I can't tell you how many times of these three women, especially when we're in the same organization, that we talk about something like, I got you. So here's what I'm going to do. And here's what you're going to do. Because we need people to know we see you. We see you. And we're not stupid. And we're not going to let that slide. And we're going to do it in a way where it's really clear. And because we are savvy enough, we're also going to do it in a way that you can't claim that we did something wrong, because we didn't. What we did is spoke truth to power. So you can keep trying to lie, but you can't say you didn't know. You can't say you didn't know, because you didn't know because we told you, right? Those are the kind of people that you need in your professional corner. And they're the kind of people that become lifelong friends because they are the ones that understand the vulnerability, the challenge, the climb, the mountain, all of that madness just to show up every day in your power. And it's a struggle more days than not. Even if you're in a job you love at a company you truly admire, there are going to be times when you're like, they, wait, am I in an alternate universe? Because something happened. Right? There are going to be times that that happens for you. And you need those folks that are going to be like, right, we ride at dawn, right? We got you. We got you. And we're going to get strategic about it. One of them always says, look, I know how not to bring a knife to a gunfight. I know how to be strategic. I just keep in my mind all of these things because, see, all of that stuff is going to add up. And when the time is right, that's when it's all going to come about. And you need that person that's going to help you be less emotional and more strategic. Because when you operate in emotion, you hurt you, not them. When you operate in emotion, you are quick to respond and aren't really listening or thinking down the line. And you heard me, proper prior planning prevents poor performance. You need to think about what you're getting ready to do. Now, there are some bridges that need to be burned to the ground, ashes only left. And those bridges are pretty few and far between. Some bridges just need to be heated up a little bit. Some folks just need to be reminded of who you are and how smart you are and how unwilling you are to be mistreated. And you don't have to be nasty or ugly about that. You just have to be clear. But having those folks around you that you can go to and say, look, I need to run this by you because here's what happened. Here's what I heard. Here's what it made me feel. And here's what I think I'm getting ready to do. But I need to run it by somebody before I do something stupid. Because see, right now I'm angry or I'm hurt or I'm disappointed. Right now my emotions are leading. So I need to get all of that out. Right? Those people with whom you can write hot, but send cold. We all need those. The people you can go to and you don't have to start over. They just get it. Right? They just get it. And I am so fortunate to not only have these women, but I have several groups of women. My village, y'all, my village is strong and it is tight. And I would not be here without them. And one of the people in my village who I've known since grad school, Leela, I got your voicemail, your voice note, sent me the most amazing note yesterday. I was bowed up and I did not get a chance to get back to her. And I'm going to do that today. And we will get our spa picture this year. I'm thinking September. One of my really good friends sent me the most amazing note yesterday. And it was so timely. And this is the thing. When people are connected to you like that, they may not know, but they know what you need. They may not know what it is about the timing that's telling them, just call, just reach out, just do. They just know. And then they act. Right? I'm going to get a chance to see my other set of girlfriends. That's my friends for life, right? We've known each other since our mothers were pregnant. That's how long we've been together. So 50 plus years we've been friends. Going to get to hang out with them in a couple of weekends. And a couple of them are going through some stuff, right? And we got parents going through some stuff. And we're going to get to hang out and eat and laugh. And I mean, and it's like time melts away. And these relationships are relationships that not only ground us, especially from a professional perspective, not only ground us, but they truly are the reason why we're here, y'all. None of us gets through this life alone. Not a single person gets through this life alone. And allowing yourself to find and have and nurture and believe in those relationships is what keeps us going. It's what keeps us able to function and function well, right? Those folks that you can just literally let your hair down and say, I can't do one more thing. I can't. The folks who say, I'm showing up. I mean, because that's what we did this weekend. We're like, yep. Okay. So I'm booked. Are you booked? Here's where I'm going. Somebody else booked a hotel. We booked flights. Somebody else got restaurant, right? Because we were coming. So it wasn't a question of whether or not we were coming. We were coming. The question was, what are we doing when we get there? Because we're going to be there. So that was just the thing, right? And all of my girlfriends, there's another set that I'm going to There's two more, right? That we're getting ready to get on a call. I'm getting ready to send y'all some Zooms and just say, come on, somebody come. I need to see faces and hear voices again. And many of them have moved from professional to personal. They started as someone I met at work. And y'all have heard me say, I am very much an ambivert, right? I am introverted, but I present as extroverted. I got these small groups of folks that are really important to me, that I love, that I like spending time with, that give me energy, that understand that when it gets dark, my brain goes dark, and they got to keep me up and moving or I'm out, right? And there's no judgment. People that give and support as much as they need and need support, right? It is a constant balance of give and take without thought. It just happens. And so if you're in an organization right now and you don't have professional folks that are your ride or die, I need you to start working on that. And I mean true ride or die. I mean, you got to be discerning, because it's not everybody. And it may not be the person you think it is. As my cousins have said, I've heard them say a lot, not all skin folks are kin folks. So just because the person looks like you, experienced, theoretically, what you experienced, came from the same town, came from the same side of the tracks, went to the same school, that does not mean that that's your ride or die. In fact, sometimes those shared experience give an opportunity for somebody to get in and get real tight with nefarious intent. Be discerning. Don't be scared, but be discerning. And find that person or persons that are really going to be your grounding force, your connection, your I need to close the door and vent person in that professional life. And then as you continue to live every day that is given to you, where are those personal relationships? And are some of those professional ones really you to become personal ones? I'm telling you, I would not be doing what I'm doing the way I'm doing it without the support of these folks who have known me professionally and personally, who have seen the work that I do, right? So they can vouch for the fact that I know what I'm doing, but they can also vouch for the fact of I am who I am. And that what you see is what you get. And that I'm always going to speak the truth, but I'm also going to be mindful of how I speak it. That I am in it to win it until I'm done. And when I'm done, I'm not mad and angry and screaming and yelling, but I'm done and I'm going to be clear. It is, as one of my friends in California said, you just no longer on the list. You no longer exist for me. I'm not spending any more energy when I'm done. And having those friends, those professional friends that tell you, okay, I need you to breathe and just rethink that. And those personal friends who are like, yeah, we tried to tell you, but see, you weren't ready. But yeah, it's time for that one to be done. Right? That's the kind of relationship that is so important for your success and for your emotional, mental, psychological, physical health. Those folks who are going to let you cry, those folks who are going to make you laugh, those folks who are going to challenge you, those folks who are going to take you to Oak Mountain Bakery and have you eat more sugar than you should in a year, right? And be right there with you. I've got a really good friend of mine speaking of sugar, really good friend of mine. She is in Kentucky right now. We met when I moved to Ohio. And when I was in Cincinnati, for those of you who have never tried this ice cream, it's called Grater's. You can now get it at grocery stores. I think Kroger's, which I haven't gotten it in a long time because I don't shop at Kroger anymore. But you can get it at Kroger, and it's called Grater's. It is some of the best ice cream. It's like French churned or French milled, they call it. So there was a Grater's store in Cincinnati, kind of this downtown area. And I would call her every once in a while, knowing I was trying to do better. I was trying not to eat all this ice cream. And I'm a sucker sometimes for ice cream. It's like, I don't want anything else. I just want a little bit of ice cream. But you go to Grater's and you got to get the coconut chip, which tastes like an Almond Joy. And you got to get the coffee chip, And their chips are like big, like chunks of chocolate, dark chocolate too, which I love. So you got to get all the flavors. And I would call her and say, oh man, I can't believe it. I went to Grader's. Man, and I got this ice cream. Ugh. And I would call her looking for sympathy, right? Like, or expecting, yeah, I know that's not what you said you wanted to do. And I would call her and tell her, oh, what flavor did you get? I'm like, see, that's a friend, right? That's a friend who's like, I get it. Look, it's ice cream. Of course you went to Grader's. Girl, did you get flavors that you really love? Great. And then we move on. No judgment, right? No pressure. Complete understanding, but also an acknowledgement that sometimes you just need ice cream. And you don't need someone to sit in judgment about the fact that you got 3 scoops instead of 2, right? You just need someone that says, hey, I'm going to get mine too. I'll meet you in the park. That's what you need sometimes, right? Those friendships that push you forward to be great and allow you to be human, allow you to be vulnerable, allow you to be flawed, allow you to be your crazy, weird self. I know I got some quirks, y'all. The friend that I've had for the longest, bless her heart, she really loves me because when we were little, she'd come to my house, we would play school. But the way I played school is we actually had real textbooks and did homework, right? My parents were teachers. At the time, my dad was a professor, right? Or an administrator. My mom was getting ready to start teaching at OC. But we played real school in my house, like real books, doing real math problems. I mean, that's what we did, checking our homework. Why she is still my friend to this day, I do not know, but she is, right? Friends let you be your crazy, weird, unconventional, unreasonable self. And professional friends do the same. They just help you do that in a way that might need to be a little bit behind closed doors so that the one you show up outside and external and to everybody else who doesn't have your best interest in mind is the persona that you want to make sure is presented. Again, not fake, still you, but appropriate for the situation in which you find yourself. Connected to the way you have to communicate in that organization or in that space or on that team or whatever. Your professional ride or die are not going to let you go down in flames just because you did something crazy. They're going to do their best to keep you from burning that bridge if at all possible. And if it just needs to be burned, they're going to be like, you know what? You're right. I get it. I'll be there when it's done, or I'll be there with the matches, right? And then we'll figure out a plan. Those professional friendships that are real, deep professional friendships allow you to still be you and to show up in your power. And in fact, encourage you and support you in doing so. Enable you to be the amazing human you are, not let anybody else tell you you're stupid or you don't know how to do it or you can't possibly do it or make you think you're crazy and have you believe that. Your professional friends, professional connections will make sure you know you're not crazy. They'll make sure you know when something is just not right and will help you figure out a strategy to address that, will help you peel back the layers to understand what you're really seeing, and will help you craft messages to speak truth to power. When you're not in the right frame of mind, they're the ones that can step in there for you. When you're not in the right frame of mind, they're the ones that can help you get back to the right frame of mind and plan a good strategy. Because again, remember I said it's about negotiation. It's about ensuring that you are ready and able and prepared to respond in the way that you really want to make the kind of impact, connection, all that kind of stuff that you want. That's what it's about. So when you're talking about these relationships that you have, and you hear people say, yeah, you can't make friends at work. There's work friends and then there's life friends. I'm telling you from real experience that those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. In fact, they're stronger when they're not. If you are open to discerning the ones that are real versus the ones that are opportunistic. The ones that are truly authentic versus the ones that are just for self-serving point in time processes and outcomes. If you're willing to be vulnerable enough to listen actively, and that means you watch what people do, because you can listen to what they say, but their actions will tell you who they really are. Believe their actions. And if you're paying attention to those actions and how they show up in a meeting when things get terse and tense, how do they respond? Are they the ones when they hear something about you and you're not there that they say, you know what, we're not doing that, or that's not true, or we're not talking about that right now. If you really want to have this conversation, then we get her here, because we're not going to have this conversation without her, because that's not right. Those folks, right? The folks that say your name and bring up your name in rooms where you're not there, but you are the right person for the next thing they're talking about. The folks that don't let someone forget you because the system has decided that you don't have enough value for what they want, but that mediocre person down the road who's been there longer does. The person who's in the room where opportunities are doled out and ensures that your name is on the list, and then helps you be prepared for that list, right? Those persons who pull you aside and say, look, here's what's happening. So I need you to think about X, Y, and Z, because they're probably going to ask you about it. So I don't want you to be surprised, right? Because that's what happens. Real friends, real professional friends will pull you aside and say, look, I'm getting ready to give you some tea so that you can be prepared. Because I don't want you to be surprised and nut up. I need you to be prepared. And then they move on, right? They give you enough information for you to be prepared, but not so much that they are breaking really big confidential issues, right? But they're also making sure that you are prepared so that you can respond in a way that is most beneficial to you, because they know the organization is about the organization. And they may or may not be thinking about you for good reasons. They may be thinking about you for just strategic reasons that doesn't have anything to do with your health, safety, capability, compassion, opportunity, none of that. Because if you look, there's been a lot of articles written on this, a lot of research done on this. If you look at a lot of the promotions, especially for Black women, it's promoted into the stuff that's a hot mess. And then we're expected to clean it up. It's like that old song, Clean Up Lady, right? Or Clean Up Woman. We have to go clean up the mess that other folks haven't been able to clean up for years. And we clean it up, and then people are mad because it's clean. Or we are also unable to clean it up in the unreasonable time frame that they give, because see, it's been years that it's been a mess, but we're supposed to clean it up in 2 days. And then all of a sudden we're the problem, right? Those professional friends that stand up in that meeting and say, no. Those professional friends that come to you and say, look, I need you to be ready for this. I need you to get your mind right, because I know how you're going to respond initially. I need you to work through all that now. And here's, I need you to get strategic and let's talk about it. Right? Someone who's maybe applying for a position, and you have a conversation with them to say, hey, look, I just saw this posted. This is really something I think I want. And this is why. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's get you ready. Here's the things I know you need to be ready for, because I know who's on the panel. That's what real deep professional friendships. Now, sponsors, yeah, but a sponsor, you may not even know you have a sponsor, right? A mentor is going to help you navigate through some of those things, right? A true mentor, because theoretically, mentors have your best interest in mind, right? But they're not your friend. They're not your friend. I'm talking about the professional friends that are going to do a combination of sponsor, ally, mentor, boss, subordinate, right? They're the combination of all of that professional friend, right? It's that real important need to have folks in your corner at that place you go to work every day, including if you're running your own business. Who is your village in your business? Who's your entrepreneurial squad? Your entrepreneurial tribe, if that's what you use. That word didn't work for me. I like village, right? But whatever it is for you, who is your group that surrounds you, especially if you're a founder and you're a solopreneur, or you're just now getting your team, right? Because there's only so much as you move from founder to CEO, and this is the challenge I see with a lot of my clients and why I developed this Founders Intensive and this 3-month program for founders who are trying to move to CEO. That's a hard transition because your confidant has probably been that first hire. The person you vent to, that you think things through, that you throw spaghetti against the wall, the person that you do all the vulnerable stuff with was maybe your first hire. But now you got 50 people. And now you've got to figure out how to make some decisions. And that person who was your first hire may not be the right person to have those conversations with. But now you're feeling bad. Well, I don't know. Maybe I should have them in. Maybe I need to get their opinion. And because you feel bad, then they feel bad. And they feel more powerful to say, you didn't ask me. You should have asked me. Why didn't you ask me? I don't understand. Right? That move to understand how you navigate those systems requires that you have those deep professional friendships with folks who are doing some of the same things you're doing. And it's not because the rest of your village can't understand. Because look, let me tell you, my village is tight and they are awesome. And I put my village in anybody's village. What is it? My village is better than your village. And what makes up a village is different neighborhoods, different houses, different streets. Some folks have pools. Some folks have tennis courts. Some folks have condos. Some folks have little bungalows. And all of them that are in your village bring something to the village that lifts the entire village up. Right? So maybe at some point you need the neighborhood that owns commercial real estate. You need to go hang out with them. Or maybe you need the neighborhood that's going to take you to Oakmont Bakery and just hang out. Maybe you need to go to the neighborhood that is making sure that you're up and moving and you're not letting yourself get sedentary and wallow. Maybe that's the neighborhood you need to be in. But in any case, you need that combination of professional relationships and personal relationships, and allow those that become truly, truly deep down, tight professional relationships that have the possibility of becoming personal, allow that to flow. Allow that to happen, because the power and the strength and the incredible journey in that is invaluable. It's immeasurable. It is absolutely priceless. It is enabling you to be in a space that you can truly be everything that you can be, because you got folks around you who are going to do the best they can to help you get there, and nothing less is acceptable to them, just like it's not acceptable to you. Right? Now we're going to take a quick break here in a minute and do some shout outs. But I just, after having that weekend, and like I said, I'll post some more pictures and stuff. So go look at them on my socials. I'll get some more pictures, especially the Billy Porter thing, because that was really cool. But I want us to challenge and reframe that thought that there can be no crossover between personal and professional, because there can be, and it can be extremely powerful to do that. It can be extremely powerful to have your work friends become your play friends, right? Your work friends become your travel buddies, right? We're trying to figure out, getting to Dubai in January and, Helsinki and getting to Dusseldorf. I mean, it's about growth and experience and connection. And again, you're hearing this from someone who is proudly introverted. It's okay. I'm okay with me being by me and by myself. I'm okay with that. And these relationships, I would not be where I am or be able to do what I do without them, without these friendships, without family for sure. I mean, that's a given. But without these friendships and these relationships, people who put you in rooms you didn't even think about, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, let's do some shout outs.
Tanzania is in the building.
Oh, that's a new one.
South Africa, Bahamas, Nigeria, France, Germany, Brazil, Finland, Johannesburg,
Johannesburg,
Freetown, Nassau, Frankfurt, Helsinki, Raleigh, Atlanta, Columbus, Ohio, New York, Jacksonville, Philadelphia,
Yay.
Kansas City, Washington, D.C.
I love it, y'all. Tanzania, y'all are new. Welcome to the show. You know what? I keep doing this all the time. I am Laurel Rutledge, the host of the Rutledge Perspective radio show here on KCOH TV Radio, The Boost, right? Network here in Houston, Texas, on the corner of Alameda and Wichita in the historic Third Ward. And I love spending this time with y'all on Tuesdays. It is just such a pleasure and an energy giver to be able to spend this time with y'all and to talk about these things that I think some people are unable to talk about, not unwilling. I think there are more people that are willing to have these conversations than we think. But there's a difference between willingness and ability. And sometimes it's just hard. It's hard to do it. It's hard to have them. From a safety perspective, sometimes people are just afraid to say it. They're just afraid to say it for good reason. Sometimes they're afraid to say it because that's just their own courage issue that they got to deal with. But sometimes there's real concern about safety and vulnerability depending on which environment you're in. That's real. That's real. And that's why I continue to encourage you to truly, truly, truly seek out those friendships that move from professional to personal, right? I told Jerry I was going to ask her some questions, as we talk about this, and especially Jerry, because you are moving and shaking too, right? Making things happen. What, from your perspective, if you think about those people that you first built relationships with just personally, that may have turned into, from professional to like personal, they're like in your village now. How did that happen to you, and how valuable is that to you, or happened for you, and how valuable is it?
I'm gonna be honest. I can't say that happened. My friends are separate from those that I work with.
Interesting.
And so I can't say, and because of what I do it alone. Most of the time I'm a creative, so I do productions and everything of that nature. So I don't have a work village. I am an entrepreneur, but I have very few that I connect with on a personal level.
Yes.
Because those that know me have to understand that people would say moody, but I'm not moody. I'm led. I can say, yes, let's do this today. And all of a sudden I feel like, no, I'm not supposed to do this.
Yeah.
And I really am an empath. I go by the flow. And so if you don't understand that with me, you're going to say, oh, she's moody. She don't know what she wants to do.
Yeah.
So that's why very few that have the flow kind of like me, like, oh, okay, she's going in a different direction. Let's see where she's going and let's go with it. So I think you and I are kind of different on that. I don't have a lot of people like that.
And it's interesting because, and you're right, there are a lot of creatives who would say the same thing. Right. A lot of people who started out as entrepreneurs will say the same thing. And their networks are really just professional networks, just connections through work, for work, by work, with work. Now, they're true and they're deep and they're respectful and people are respected, but they're not hanging out. Or if they hang out, it's like a work happy hour. Right? It's like a professional gathering that happens to have a social hour attached to it. Right? So lots of creatives or people who started as entrepreneurs, that's the case. That is the case. And that combination of professional and personal, to Jerry's point, has to be what works for you.
Right.
Right? And so for me, those connections from professional to personal truly happened because of shared experiences, and truly happened because we had a need, we had a connection that was about making things happen and being safe and being vulnerable and laughing, and it was a need to not be connected to folks at work. Because I grew up with that thing that there are people at work and then there are people that are your friends, and never shall those two meet. And as I continued to move, there was a crossover for me, and there has continued to be. Now, also to Jerry's point, that crossover is a small number. It's a small number. At one company that was 10,000, 12,000 people, 3. At this last company, 3. Right? Companies before that, 4 or 5 max. So I don't want you to think that it's about then building these really big, small, tiny, intimate, and intentional. And they know how I move. Like I said, 8:30, y'all. If y'all are asking me to get ready to go somewhere, and it's dark, that's not happening. But if you get me out before then, and you kind of keep me out, and you keep me moving, then it's likely that I'll be able to hang with you for a while, right?
But they get that about you.
But they get that.
Saying, why are you acting like that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They know that. We know enough about each other that that's just the way it is, right? That at about 8:30, my eyes are rolling back in my head. Right? It's time to go to bed. But I'm up at 4. Right? So people just get that. They just get that. In fact, my friend that I've known the longest in my life, when we turned 30, we went on a cruise. And she is a night owl, can stay up all night. I am an early bird, right? Because she'll sleep till noon or 1. I can't do that because I feel like the whole day is gone. So we decided on this cruise, we would get up early, we would take a nap, and then we would stay up late. It was perfect, right? Because that way we got to actually spend time together on this cruise. And we weren't like connected at the hip. Don't get me wrong. We both did some of our own things, but we wanted to be able to experience a lot of this together. So we made an agreement, knowing each other the way we did, to say, this is how we're going to work this. And there is no judgment. There is no judgment. If you have a minute where you're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. Okay, cool. Right? It was fabulous. And then it's the same with these work friends. They know. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I don't throw parties. I don't do team building. I don't do that stuff. I don't do that stuff. Right. But I do care about you. I'm not the one that's going to remember the birthdays. No. But I am going to be fighting the battle to make sure my team is safe, make sure my team is respected, make sure things are going the right way so that my team is okay. And if you have a problem with my team, you come to me. I am the interferer, right? I am the first line of defense for my team. That's how I operate. But I'm likely going to have my assistant help me remember birthdays because I'm not going to remember that. I'm not going to remember that. I'm not going to think about doing a part. I don't, that's just not who I am. But I am focused on making sure I create safe spaces where people feel valuable, where people feel valued, where people can step into their own power and their genius and show up. I'm going to challenge them in private, right? I'm going to uplift them in public. And I'm going to call them on the carpet when it's crazy. When it needs to be, we're going to make that happen, right? I'm not going to shy away from that. But I'm going to lead with collaboration. And I'm going to lead with pushing people forward because I don't need kudos. That I'm not one that needs a lot of recognition. In fact, I just assume you don't recognize me. I don't need to be on stage. I don't need any of that. I do need for us to be honest and for there to be respect. I'm not going to let you mistreat me. But you don't have to lift me up. You also don't have to tell me when I've done something wrong because I know that already too, right? You have to have very little communication with me, quite frankly. I just don't need it. And I've learned that there are people that work for me who do. And so I've learned to be in those spaces where if I'm truly adamant about being compassionate and creating safe spaces and comfortable spaces, that I will modify, adjust, improve, increase, expand the way I talk, lead, communicate, challenge in order to be respectful of somebody else's needs to a certain extent, right? There's some things that just aren't going to happen, right?
I need it. I need you to give me my kudos.
Yeah.
I need you to put me on that stage. I need to say thank you. I need to say job well done because I feel like relationships should be reciprocal. Mm-hmm. Now, if I was the type of person that didn't give that, then I'm not expecting that back. But once you give it, you kind of expect it back. You don't need it to survive, but it does work good for everybody when you said that. But while you were talking, made me think of something about Jay when he was in here, because he's in here doing camera work and stuff. And when I asked him about how's his daughter, I won't remember your birthday. I promise you, I won't remember where I put the paperwork. You said something about we've been here. I said, how many years? Right. Because I don't remember that. But if it's something like prayer, I said, one thing about it, I'm a little crazy on some things, but when I say I'm going to pray for you, I'm going to pray for you. So you have to understand that, because most people would think if you don't remember their birthday or something sweet, they're a narcissist or they're so caught up. No, you have your thing that you are determined to remember about somebody that's important to you, and other things may not be that important, but that doesn't make you a narcissist. Exactly. And I am much more in tune to what I see, the behavior I see, the words I see from people, their response to things. I am much more in tune to that, and ensuring that I understand how to create spaces or how somebody's going to respond to a situation. Right. And I'm big on thank you. I appreciate it. When I go out to eat, I'm looking the server in the eye. I'm finding out what their name is, all of those kind of things, because that's a sign of respect. Right. But I don't necessarily, but again, introverted, right? I don't necessarily need you to even see me. Right. I don't need. But do you feel a way when somebody does, or when they say, Laurel, you did a great job? Does that make you feel any different? Or do you be like, well, that's interesting. I very much appreciate it. And it has taken me a long time to just say, thank you. I appreciate that. Because most of the time our response is, oh, well, I could have. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for honoring me with that. Right. I've had to train myself to just say thank you, because I'm always in a self-evaluative, self-awareness, reflective mode, trying to find what I could have done better. Right. So I absolutely appreciate it. And I love that there are people who will do that to me. Like my friend that sent me that note yesterday. I love what you're doing. I'm so proud of you. All that. I take that to heart. And it does mean a lot to me. It means a lot to me. And especially in a professional setting, I'm not the person that needs all the recognition. I don't need. What I need is to see that there is equity and fairness and honesty and integrity. That to me is how you keep me on your side. Don't lie. Don't mistreat people, and don't treat me like I'm stupid. Those are the things I need. Treat me like the intelligent person I am, operating with integrity, willing to have difficult conversations, and willing to figure out what we're going to do and just do it. You don't have to manipulate me. Let's just tell the truth. Let's just tell the truth. If we do that, then I'm on your side. Right? We're good. When we act like adults, we're good. So, all right, y'all. It's been great. I love spending this time with you guys so much. We will be here next week. Next week, Adrian Villa Cortez is going to be back in the studio. It's been a long time, and I haven't seen him in at least pre-COVID. Wow. So he's going to be back. We're going to be talking about AI and AI in business, and how you can really start thinking about that, especially those of you who are in companies and y'all are trying to figure out how you're going to do this. And for those of you who have your own businesses and have teams, how are you going to start using AI? There's some really great things around productivity, but also how do you walk that line and balancing, especially employment law and protecting employee information. So let's talk about that. Join me next week with Adrian, because we're going to have a really great conversation about that. Thank you for tuning in. As always, on KCOH TV Radio, The Boost here in Houston, Texas, the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show. I am Laurel Rutledge, your host, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.